All right, welcome to demo time. I'm Joshua Copeland, and this meetup was basically voluntold to me because we have a bunch of entrepreneurs here. We have a bunch of startups. We have a bunch of great people trying to build great things. Today we have a bunch of awesome talks, which I don't have open right now. Give me 1 second, I'm sorry. First we have Virtue Education. If you want to visit any other websites, feel free to go on meetup.com, look up Vegas Programmers, and on there you'll find all of our previous meetups and contact information and things like that. And so you can find their websites, and if you want to reach out after the meetup. Following Johnny here, we have Richie, who's going to be talking about Hubbard research. And then we have Miles, who's going to be speaking about Official Whistle, which is a sports betting, in the sports betting arena. I'm not sure exactly what, but I'm excited to learn about it. So thanks again for Vegas Theater Company for hosting us. Shout out to Homeboy, who's somewhere. If you could dim the lights a little bit when we get started here, I'd appreciate it. Usually at the end here, we have about 10-15 minutes for networking. The format usually is 15 minutes for the talk, say 5 minutes for questions, and then we have the subsequent demos thereafter. Other than that, any other exciting things going on I can't think of? No? Okay, let's get started. So without further ado, Johnny with Virtue Education.
Thank you. Is this clip on? Thanks, guys. I'm Johnny. Before I get started, this is my first time here, and I would like to know what your guys' backgrounds are, so I kind of can tailor this presentation just a little bit to what you guys are interested in. So is there developers mostly here, or people want to just randomly shout out what you do? Software engineer?
Yeah.
Software?
Project management.
Okay.
Full stack CEO, do it all, attack,
Love it.
marketing, strategy.
Okay. Same thing? Founder? Product? Cool. Okay, so that's kind of what I was guessing is would be pretty engineer heavy. I'm not an engineer, so hopefully I can still talk to you guys about some of the parts of this product that I haven't personally built, but our team has built. But I'll probably start about 4 years ago. When I was 19, I started a company called Virtue. The whole purpose of Virtue was to be able to help other companies connect better with their audience. So a lot of times a founder will have a great idea. I'm sure a lot of you have built amazing products, and I'm sure a lot of them have gotten into the hands of people that really needed them. I've found that a lot of times that part where you go from building it to getting it to somebody is really difficult. And it's difficult for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of noise out there, but if you can try to engage that customer to the best of your abilities, I found that usually you have a better chance of getting that project off the ground. And if you're going to build, then you probably want it to go to somebody, because it's fun to build, but it's even more fun to see somebody use something you've built. So in 2019, I started a company called Virtue. We worked on that. One of the first companies I worked with was a AI healthcare company. And I really fell in love with the notion that you can go out in the world, find a problem that exists, and then address it with technology. And it just so happens that large language models are one of the ways that you can address problems. So now, 4 years later, this is an offshoot of a company that, again, I started in 2019. Instead of engaging business owners, this project, the whole goal is to engage students more effectively. And that is my company's name on a bathroom tissue there, if you're wondering what my profile photo is. So it's really simple. Our software asks students what they're interested in. We do this in a few different ways. We use intake forms that kind of vary depending on what age group they're in. If it's a really young student, our intake forms can actually, a student can speak into them, so they don't have to type as much. That's also really nice for students who have English as a second language. And our platform takes in those interests, holds those interests, creates a profile for them, a lot like social media companies build profiles of interest for their users. Except instead of selling ads to people based on their interests, we take those interests and work backwards to the standards that exist for any state curriculum. So from K through 12, you have standards that exist, you have subjects that are on top of that, and then on the very top, you have the content that fits into those subjects and standards. Our whole goal is to be able to personalize the content at the very top. And it's our thesis really that student engagement will increase drastically if you show students what they're interested in. There's a war of engagement that's happening where social medias are able to basically capture our attention very easily because there's engineers working to capture that attention and tons of money put into capturing that attention. And schools are really at a disadvantage there because as one teacher, for example, if I was your teacher, this was a classroom, I just did it briefly at the beginning, I asked what your interests were. I could probably teach this presentation a little bit more effectively to match the software engineers in this room, but it'd also be helpful if there was a tool to help me do that. So I'll show you kind of the tool I'm talking about, just briefly. And bear with me. I opened a bunch of tabs because my Wi-Fi is a little bit slow, so it might make this a little bit faster. So this is the teacher side of the portal. As I said, it's really simple. You're going to have student intake forms that every teacher gets. Okay, and these student intake forms are pretty similar to any form that you've seen in any other software. An example of one of these forms would be something like this. Like I said, really simple. This is a type form. You guys probably know of type form. And so let me make this actually smaller so you guys can see it better. Okay, great. And this would be a form that's used for a high school student. So you can imagine that for a younger student, an interest basis might be a little bit different. We've done intake forms with fourth graders in Georgia. Some of the students said things like, I like art because it helps me express my emotions, which was actually really emotionally mature for a fourth grader. One student said, I like to eat lunch, which is probably what I would have said if I was in fourth grade. And so after you put in your name and your information, I'll just do that. So you'll be prompted with a bunch of different questions about what you're interested in. And again, this helps us build this interest profile. You only have to do this intake process at the very beginning if you're a student. So it makes it really simple. You can do this at the beginning of the school year. You log on and you can basically put in all of your interests. And the questions range from what are your hobbies to what would you change about the world if you could change anything. Again, the goal is that every single student can have something that's actually important to them. We're all interested in different areas, so why should we standardize the way that we're learning? Once you have an intake form like that, a student gets built a custom portal that has their custom assignments. So this student was interested in marine biology. And so their assignments for LA, their reading comprehension are going to be based on marine biology. Again, they can go into their portal, they can open these full articles. Here's an example of an assignment that we generated for a student. Colors do not look like that on my computer, but bear with me. And so you can see a student has the ability to read this article and then answer some comprehension questions. So for a student that's interested in marine biology, this is probably a lot more engaging for them than the standard assignment that a student or that a teacher picks for that classroom. And that's really where this idea came from, was that when I sat in on high school classes, I realized that there was a problem, and that was that teachers were coming up with the content to then tell the students, but a lot of these students don't really care, and that's just the sad reality. Now, in business, when we have problems with engagement and personalization, we build CRMs, we build custom software, we use AI to customize our outreach. Why don't we apply that same line of thinking to education to help students reach their goals, not just for sales? And that's really the essence of this. It becomes a CRM for a teacher to use for their students. Really importantly, we also want to make sure that we're reaching the diagnostic levels. You can see this Lexile level up there in a +6. So our system allows you to crank up the difficulty based on Lexile for any student. There's a lot of diagnostic tests that students take at the beginning of the year. Other softwares do that. It's not really an area we're focused on right now. But with those diagnostic levels, that's what we're going to use to make this article precisely the level that the student is at. So you can see for vocabulary development, you can see that there's the terms that were used, where they're at, and then you can see this above early 9th grade. That's where we're giving the student a little bit more of a difficult word or vocab section. We're trying to kind of progress their thinking and their learning. So kind of, you can think of it not as this is maybe a bad example, but kind of a treadmill, and you have that increasing difficulty right in front of the student, and that's going to help them keep skipping levels forward and forward. The main thing that we get asked is, how does this apply to fairness, right? So one student might be learning about marine biology, another student's learning about Minecraft, which is actually a student put their interest to be Minecraft, which I thought was great. We wrote a bunch of really interesting articles and assignments surrounding the economics of Minecraft. I haven't played it personally, but now I'm kind of interested in it after reading the assignments that he had been using. The important part is that the levels and the standards match exactly to what schools are already teaching. And the purpose in that is that schools don't have to change the standards. That takes years to go through and decide we're going to change the standards. We want students to now learn about X, Y, or Z. That none of that has to change. These are actually California state standards that exist. You can see if you Google that standard, that is exactly what that standard is teaching to. So not only does the student have a content basis that's personalized for them, but the standard that we're all used to teaching, as I say teachers are used to teaching, is still there. I'll just quickly also go into a teacher portal. This is kind of where the CRM notion really comes into place, is the teacher side of this software. So again, bear with the colors. A teacher has the ability to look through all of the student interests in their entire classroom, right? So if you're in sales, if you've ever sold a product, you have a CRM and it has all of your student or your customer information in it. And with that customer information, you might say, hey, I'm going to reach out to Joe next Tuesday and I'm going to remind him that, we were kind of planning on getting that sales meeting going. Teachers don't have the ability to do that right now. But again, what's the goal? It's to engage the students as best as possible. So why wouldn't we give them the same tools that sales development representatives have and larger companies have when they're working on engagement? A teacher can see their entire classroom. They can see who's into what. These are actually generated images based on the interest. So you can see this person is into wrestling and cooking, kind of came up with this weird picture. The goal there is that students also have kind of a gamification about their profile. I mentioned that you can do the first student intake form at the beginning of the year. This is also a living document, right? So students can actually come in to their profile whenever they want, and they can adjust as needed to their interests. And I'll just show you a quick example of that if it loads. Awesome. So here's an example of a student's profile. And again, this is speaking to the student. So it's saying kind of in the first person, you like this, this is what was on your interest profile. If Catherine wanted to come down and put in a new interest that she found, she's totally able to do that. And again, her assignments will reflect those updated interests. So this is really becoming a living document for students to be able to have their interests be taught exactly to them. And we're hoping that it increases student engagement, because I was a terrible student. I don't know if you guys loved school. I should say K through 12 school. College, I think, was probably a little bit more fun. I didn't go to college, but if I did, I imagine there's probably a little bit more freedom that you have and flexibility to work on what you enjoy doing. I think that we can start giving kids the opportunity to do that before college. I think that people start showing interest before that. We can start letting them go down these pathways. And just finally, I'll use the example. The best surfer in the world right now, in my opinion, his name is John Florence, and he was born and raised in Hawaii. And he grew up every single day going to the beach and surfing. And the thing that really occurred to me was that I think that if we let people get interested at a younger age in certain topics and really explore those topics and really get kind of obsessed about those topics, I think that's how we create world-class talent in any group of people. And finally, just before I finish, I want to say that once you have this CRM that has all of these student interests, by the way, it does automatic grading. I'll just throw that in as an auxiliary feature. Once you have all these student interests, it's really easy for a school to connect with its community and say, hey, we have a student who's interested in entrepreneurship. Are there any entrepreneurs at Tech Alley that want to get involved with this student, that want to be a mentor to this student? On the counseling front, if you have a student that's starting to show that their interests are deviating or they're not as interested anymore, it's a really good early indicator that that student is maybe overall not doing as well as they would have been doing. So we're trying to create kind of the teaching to the whole student, which is something you hear a lot in education, and do it with this software tool and try to support teachers. So that's Virtue Education. Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
I have two sets of questions. The first question is, what type of feedback and help would you like? So I have some questions about the tech, but also there's some business development sections here. So you asked us what we were looking at.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, so this is my first time here. I would like any...
You're overdressed. You look great. But
Thank you. You know, it's funny.
No, I saw this guy go, he's got a fucking type hit on? Like I can't remember the last time I did that. This guy's serious though. This is a
Definitely.
Serious man.
Yeah, we're trying to be seen as serious by the school district, so that's the reason for the suit. I figure this was recorded, but
yeah.
Thank you. We're really looking for any feedback about engagement in general. I think that as far as the human aspect goes of this, kind of what a human's interested in, we're really trying to crack the code on making sure that a student is taught to personally and uniquely.
Okay, so I'm going to give you your first piece of advice, and I'm just some guy, so whatever.
Yeah.
But the schools, like the Clark County School District, the traditional school district,
sure,
those are your enemy. They're not going to help you. Every other educational system that's really trying to drive the private schools and stuff, they might have an incentive to do this. I give you lots of examples there. A question for you on the back end of this, right? So you've got the type form that's collecting some data, it's sitting there.
Yep.
When you're generating these assignments and stuff,
sure,
I'm probably wrong, maybe not. Is this a GPT wrapper? Is it something different? Oh, there's the smile.
What, as far as you're asking, what our actual software infrastructure is?
Well, yeah. So like, what's the core tech behind it?
Yeah. So we use different models. It's not a GPT wrapper.
Great.
Yeah, we use multiple different
models. Do you use?
We use GPT. We use Anthropic. We're also looking at Gemini.
Okay.
You just rolled your eyes. I'm not sure.
Well, you just said you don't use GPT, and then you said use GPT. That's what I wrote.
Well, I'm sorry. You said GPT wrapper. I thought you meant like we built a custom GPT that makes assignments. That's
no. So GPT wrapper meaning you made some software and you wrap it around the GPT. So since you use different languages, you can swap it out with the GPT, which is an indication you built it in a way where it's adding value. So tip of the hat to you on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Excellent. Yeah.
Got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm going to come at this a little, I guess, from a darker side. The gist of it seems to be that what you're, and I don't object to this at all, but the gist of this seems to be that what you're trying to do is the quote-unquote TikTok equivalent of getting students addicted to learning. Is that an approximation of what you're trying to do?
No,
That's
not at all. No.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
you can go on.
I just had a follow-up to it, which
Yeah.
was, as far as the back end goes and all the reporting,
Sure.
once you compile a profile on these kids,
Yep.
it seems like it could be an avenue for antisocial interactions, bullying, peer pressure, pressure from teachers when it doesn't align with the school, what the school wants.
Okay. Sure.
So as far as like privacy and security of the profiles themselves, who has access to it and how those reports are compiled?
Yeah, so that would be our company. We follow FERPA compliance, which is basically all education companies have to hit a certain compliance for the security protocols that go on. We use Google accounts to log into these profiles. We store it on our own database though, in our own server. As a private company, I don't really know of any other option to do that. And to address the first point that you made, as far as making TikTok addicting, or
TikTok.
right, but making this as addicting as TikTok. I don't think social medias are going anywhere. So as a society, we have the ability to either basically build tools that compete with them as far as being engaging, stop using them, that's another option, definitely. But why would we be disadvantaged by certain companies at our free will that engage students way more effectively? I ask constantly to different parents, I say, who knows the most about your kids? And the answer is usually, well, I do. And I would argue that a lot of times that's not true. Companies usually know the most about people in general, and definitely when kids use social media networks, they know who they're friends with, what their interests are, and a lot more. They're using that information to sell them goods and services usually. There's no selling goods and services here. This is purely for exploratory of knowledge. And so we would hope that we compete with TikTok eventually. I know that's a huge claim to make, but
I didn't mean that your platform was going to be that.
Sure.
What I meant was instilling more of a dopamine hit, I guess, to wanting to learn new things because it aligns with the interests
Sure.
that they're already interested in.
yeah, I guess I would ask you, should we avoid giving anybody dopamine with it?
Avoid it.
Okay.
That's what
No,
I
we
said
should
from the
give them
beginning. I was
dopamine
saying
for
it doesn't
learning.
seem like a bad. I said initially I'm not opposed to it.
Right, no,
It seemed kind of like if you're summing it up, that's kind of what you're trying to do.
got
Well,
it.
he's being a lot
We
more
have
honest
lots of
with it
other
by asking
questions,
them.
so let's hop into some other questions.
Please.
The platform looks pretty cool. What's the company's play towards like immersive technology going into the future?
Hey, you know what? There was one founder that was doing something called Job World, and it was a VR job platform in which students could try out basically different careers that they were interested in. I think going a route like that eventually would be amazing. Is that something that you're involved in?
Yeah.
fantastic. I would love to get your name and your number. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I was a public school teacher for 6 years, so I have some questions from, that standpoint.
Please, yeah.
Okay, so this is just for reading comprehension?
Yeah, so right now we're working on LA and math. Those are the 2 subjects that we're working with.
Okay, all right. So my concern, or something to consider, is from a public education standpoint, you want the student to be able to pass the standardized test.
Definitely.
And part of the standardized testing is their ability to read things that they're not interested in whatsoever.
Totally.
And their whole funding is built around standardized testing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come to me as an educator, you tell me, well, I'm going to give these students things that they're interested in to increase their engagement to read, that I can get how that can pull them in and help them develop their reading skill, but ultimately, how do you help me with this problem of getting students to be able to read things they don't want to read, right? Because even as an adult, it's way easier for me to read something that I'm passionate about compared to going to work and I got to read this training manual to check the box, right? So how do you help me get that skill? Because that is a skill.
Totally.
That they need as a child, as a student, to learn how to read a whole bunch of boring stuff that you're not interested in and comprehend that.
Right. Yeah, there's one teacher that brought kind of this idea to us where he said, my students are reading these standardized tests, and a lot of time these standardized tests have vocab words that we don't even use in this country a lot of times, right? And so students are like, what does that mean?
Or activities in there, like they're not even exposed.
Totally.
They lose context and meaning because they're not exposed to those nuances.
Exactly. And so when they read that article that says, something that they don't actually know of, we're judging their reading as being lower, but really it's the understanding of a broader world that one student, that's why standardized testing is actually pretty unfair, because one student might come with a lot more contextual knowledge. A little secret is that what was on the screen, this is actually what I hope to be the first step to moving towards something where it's a little bit less of a standardized assessment. My dream is that in 20 years, every student will be graded and tested on what they know the most about, so they can shine in that given area.
So the current system is your enemy, if that's the battle.
Sure, and you kind of have to befriend the enemy to kind of get the war going. Well,
They're haters, they're trying to kill you.
We got
Got
2
it.
more minutes, so a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
So I really like the idea of this from sort of the student's point of view. I like the sort of, the way you're trying to bring in. I'm not a teacher. I don't know teachers. But my impression is quite a lot of them are overworked. And if I imagine being a teacher and having this technology, the blood drains from my face, because if I'm issuing 20 different assignments to 20 different students, I need to know all of the assignments in and out. I need to know that they're all equally hard, because if Ben comes in because he got a bad grade on his reading, he complains that Stacy got an easier one.
Yep.
And I might be the person helping people with the assignments. I'm the person who needs to grade them. So it seems like this multiplies my work instead of reducing it.
Got it. Are you asking if how we combat the workload?
Yeah, I guess so.
So
really targeted students as an audience, which is great.
Right.
Teachers are going to be the people adopting this.
Yeah, right. And I'll just go quickly because there's somebody behind you that has a question. Automatic grading happens, right? The teacher doesn't build any of the assignments themselves, and they're based on the levels that the students are at. So a teacher doesn't actually, we're taking the work out of the teacher having to actually read through all of those articles. If they want to edit them or check them, they can.
It's sort of a duty to know what you're assigning your students.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. A lot of teachers that we've talked to don't actually want to read the same answers to assignments all the time. They're bored with the assignments themselves, and so this gives them an opportunity to explore something else. But you're right, I think that it is the teacher's duty to go through and make sure that's right, and that's why they have this ability to view all of these assignments whenever they want and work through them. We haven't found another way to approach people and engage them this individually. So yeah, thanks for the question. If we have time, I can take.
Yeah, one more.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I came in a little bit later, so I saw a bit of some of your presentation.
Yeah.
But I do like the concept in that it really does go against traditional testing.
Sure.
I think testing, we can say standardized testing doesn't work. We're the only country that open tests our students, and yet our scores are a little bit in other countries. So clearly it's not working. But I think what you're presenting is, I guess, a good breath of fresh air in that we're monitoring the engagement of students so that we can inform the adults in their lives on how to best support them based on their engagement
Yep.
My question to you is, how are parents being, how can parents play a role in using this data to inform how they can support their kids outside of school?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, I showed you the teacher portal and the parent portal, the teacher portal and the student portal today. There's also a parent portal and an admin portal. So if schools want teachers to have the ability for parents to be able to check in on their kids' interests, they can do that. We're leaving that to the school, but they can have access to the same interests to kind of keep track and try to support them as well. So.
And part of your build out, were you also engaging with parents kind of on the back end to inform the way that you're gathering that data and output to support their ability to?
100%, because we're finding that with a lot of the curriculum arguments that are going around the country, it keeps coming back to the parents saying, well, I personally don't want my child learning about X, Y, or Z, and so that's why we're going to them. They're the final checker to make sure that this is something that they want their kid interested in. Obviously, if they're under 18 years old, that's still a guardian of theirs. So, yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right. Up next, we have Richie. See if I can get the.
Yeah, of course.
No, that was a great presentation. I appreciate that. It's funny about TikTok. I heard in China they all get educational content, but then here it's all garbage, right? So it's a little disturbing. But anything I think to engage kids and more go towards their interests makes sense to me. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges with that. So good luck, and we'd love to have you back in like 6 months or something like that to see how the journey goes for that. Okay, so sure. Couple of things. One, unfortunately, Sammy is no longer co-organizing with us. She has obligations with another company where, I guess, whatever. And I've asked that if anybody is interested in helping organize the Demo Time event, to please reach out to me. You can come tap me after. Joshua Stacy here has been nice enough to step up and help me organize this meetup, so thank you, Joshua, for helping me out with that. But we do need other organizers and more support for the group to keep it going and things like that. So if you're interested, I'll have my card up here at the front. If you have a demo that you folks want to present, feel free to reach out to me, or you can go to phpvegas.com and there's a form you can submit there and we'll get you scheduled accordingly. Thank you. And without further ado, Hubbard Research.
How are we doing today?
We're killing it.
We're killing it.
Now we're learning about calibrated probability.
We're about to. I want to say great job to Johnny. That was really interesting stuff for me. And you stood up to the sharks in the front row. That's good stuff. So has anybody here heard of calibration training? Nobody. Nice. So we'll start off with a simple exercise. I want you to guess my age, but give me a range. Give me a lower bound and an upper bound. So 0 to 100, and be 90% sure you're confident in your result. Anybody, just throw out a range.
27 to 36.
27 to 36.
15 to 50.
15 to 50.
I'm 90% sure of that.
0 to 100.
0 to 100. This man was correct.
35.
25, 35, 33. So he had the most precise range. Everybody else was in range, which is actually very unique. We found that when you ask people these kind of questions, they only get it right about 60% of the time. So why does this matter? Doesn't matter how old I am, but anybody that's a business analyst, anybody that's populating forecasts, CAGR models, any kind of NPV calculations, you're doing constant subjective estimations. And we work with some big companies that when they're projecting 10 years into the future, being off a little bit in their ranges is magnificent. It can be huge. So calibration training is basically understanding your own uncertainty. You don't know how old I am. I don't know any of you. So when you say 0 to 100, that's better than saying he's 25 to 26. And this principle seems simple, but it's honestly something that nobody's taught in their life, and I hope you guys kind of see the value in it just as I did the first time I got to understand it. So calibrated probability assessments is basically taking someone through a series of quizzes and a series of videos to explain I'll give you a quick introduction of what some of those questions might look like. But, okay, it's kind of ugly. So you'll take 200 questions, and this is general trivia spanning a bunch of different fields. And so you might be in cybersecurity, you might be in finance, you might be in insurance. It doesn't matter. We're not testing your trivia knowledge. We're testing how do you perform when I ask you a question you don't know, but you want to give an answer to. Are you going to be very precise and get the answer wrong? Or are you going to give a gigantic range where it's almost useless? And coming to an understanding with your own uncertainty is how you start to zone in and narrow that range, but stay within what will be an accurate kind of interval. So this is a student going through. They'll take 200 of these questions. There's range questions, but then there's also true-false questions. So I'll just jump forward. The melting point of tin is higher than aluminum, true or false? We don't know. So we might say we're 60% confident. We have no idea. If you're 100% confident in something, that's great. The reality is 90% of the time, someone's 100% confident, they get it wrong. And when you're building stochastic models, when you're dealing with probability expressions, getting it wrong at that level changes your entire forecast. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to model, whether you're trying to see, okay, how many people do I need to complete this project? How much money is it going to take? How long is it going to take? You have to do subjective estimation. People do this constantly. They just don't frame it to themselves and they don't frame it to their company. So part of what the company deals with is training people. And then a big portion of that training is kind of reviewing your results. Oh. So real quick. All right. So this is what a user might see. This might be kind of confusing if you aren't really sure what you're looking at. But basically, well, it's all stretched out too. So this might represent, I've attempted something, I said I was 70% correct 10 times. Out of that, I was correct 7. That's exact calibration. When I say I'm 70% correct of something, and you ask me a question 10 times, I should get 7 of those questions correct. If I get 5 of those questions correct, I'm overconfident. If you get 3 of those questions correct, you're very overconfident. If you get all of them correct, you're underconfident. You know more than you're letting on. So that's how the true-false ones, the arranged ones, we kind of bound between 0 and 1, or -1 and 1. And yeah, I apologize, it's kind of hard to see some of this stuff. But what we essentially do is we map users' progress over a series of tests. So you might come in, you've never heard of calibration before, we're throwing questions at you, throwing principles like pre-mortems. You know, before you answer this question, pretend you've already gotten it wrong, look back and say, why did I get it wrong? So there's these calibration principles we train the students on in the videos, and what you see is test by test, they gradually improve. And what everybody's trying to do is get to this green line, which represents calibration. You know, this says actual expected minus actual minus expected percent correct. If I say I'm gonna be 75% correct, do I actually get it 65% of the time? So there's -10%. So that's what the user sees, and that's very useful just as a person going through life. Like, you might be at a restaurant trying to determine how much you're going to spend that night. It might be between $60 and $90. You might start giving these probability estimates just to understand things you're dealing with in your daily life. But this is what's interesting. This is what the like team leader or manager is going to see. They're going to see how their entire group performs. So they'll get these same kind of results in terms of feedback. And then all of this is done with Chart.js. If anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, it's pretty difficult to see, but you know, this is a pretty, yeah, it's almost impossible. Let me see. That's a little better. So you can kind of track how a user does and how a group does, test by test. And you can actually look at your performers, and I can say, wow, this guy, I can see who in my team is actually performing. And we have people, we calibrate some of the biggest organizations in the world. We have people in insurance, finance, top echelons of military, top echelons of government. And we have people that get 15% of these questions right with the highest confidence. It's actually terrifying. But as a manager, who doesn't want to see that? Who doesn't want to know, okay, Linda is constantly overconfident. John's always underconfident. You get this feedback on your estimators, and it can change how you actually manage your people. And so that's what calibration training is. That's the first step. What comes after that is a platform for expert aggregation we built called Team Calibrator. And basically, has anybody here ever served in the military? Okay, have you heard of BOGSAT? So a lot of times when you have people in a room and you're trying to make a decision, it just collapses on the most confident person, more or less. You may have seen this. You know, in Scrum, they do stuff like planning poker, and they try to keep it private so you don't influence each other. That's an improvement. But BOGSAT is basically boys and girls sitting around a table. And what you find in those decisions, people all kind of coalesce around the loudest voice. And that's not a good thing. So we built an expert aggregation platform. Basically, you take in estimates from all of your people, and you don't just average them. We use kind of a proprietary algorithm to aggregate those estimates, and I'll show you how it works. But let's say I have an investment kind of proposal. I can define it, write some questions, and then this is interesting. When we generate these, we have a box you can check, and it is a ChatGPT wrapper. It'll send all of the estimation data out to a LLM and pitch back some data that we actually incorporate for the estimators. So what ends up happening is you ask, you know, maybe 10 people these same questions, and you get a lot of different responses. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller. Oh, that's painful. Jesus. I might just walk my laptop around the room here, but basically we create an algorithm that can look at each person. It factors in their calibration data, so you can see what their range was. This David Garcia, he had a range between 12 and 36. But if you notice, David's a little bit underconfident. So that gray line in the middle is its auto calibration. We look at all of their performance answering the trivia questions, and we say, how does this person actually estimate? Are they on point, or are they constantly overestimating, underestimating themselves? You can see the person underneath them, John Williams, way overconfident. The top end of his scores are way too high. It's like saying, okay, he's between 0 and 100. I'm obviously not 100 years old. It'd be pretty cool if I was. But you can look at somebody's estimation kind of profile and say, okay, they're making a stochastic estimate that we're going to plug into a model. We want to auto-calibrate that. We want to make sure that before we put that into our models, we're looking at their past performance and we're factoring that in. And then you can't see it, but at the bottom of the screen, the smallest range is actually this Team Calibrator up there. And that's our algorithm that we take everybody's input, take their previous calibration kind of performance, we sum it together, and it becomes a range that's not only narrower, but it's more accurate on average. So it outperforms expert, like you could just take the average, it outperforms averaging, it outperforms your best estimator, and it outperforms any single kind of simple method for aggregating your experts. So basically that's the majority of the platform. We also have a ton of kind of different reporting pages where you can see how your estimators do over time. And the whole purpose of this is basically just to populate better models. So this isn't the core of the business. This is kind of a precursor, because we work with so many people that whether you're in cybersecurity and you're trying to see if this control is worth investing in, how likely this risk is to happen, how much return on investment on the control that you're putting money into, you need to have good estimations or else you're just throwing money away. So not only is this a platform to help you provide better estimates, but also to track performance over time. So that's basically it. That's the basis of it. And then kind of just so you have an understanding, this is all built in Moodle. It's a ton of custom development work in Moodle, but Moodle is an open source PHP platform for learning management. When I first started at this company, they had a Django code base and it was an absolute mess. So we also have a ton of other different courses we offer. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this, but we also have a chat GPT in the courses. So we use a GPT assistant that's trained on all the transcripts. My boss, the owner of the company, is an author, so we have all of his chapters from his books. And you can basically, let's say you're stuck on something, you can open this up, you can chat about the actual content of the page that you're working on. It can reference transcripts, it can reference different PowerPoints and spreadsheets that are part of the course material. So it's really interesting stuff. If you're interested about the company, it's hubbardresearch.com. What I showed you in the beginning was calibration training, and it's about $300 a person. We do like bulk discounts for big companies. And then Team Calibrator is kind of built to scope, and that's basically it. One of the things I'll mention is I couldn't even pull it up, but when we calculate that, that's done in Python. Everything else is done in PHP. So we have a couple microservices that actually connect to our expert aggregation algorithm, and we use those in Excel. We use those in different extensions for different programs. So this is a great training portal, but it's also something that we kind of build into your enterprise tools.
5 minutes for questions.
So I can't see anything. Yeah.
First of all, I really like the concept quite a lot. You know, it's well known that estimating is one of the hardest things to do, especially in software development.
Sure.
But it occurs to me also that when you're asking an unknown, right, effectively, I mean, the chance of you getting it right is the number of choices you have, right? So if you're asking is speed more frequent than quality, and you have no idea, your odds of getting it right are literally 50-50, right?
Sure.
Because when you don't know, it's just the number of choices.
Sure, and this is what I like about this is it reframes it, because it's not just what you would do is you would make it a declarative statement. You would say speed is more important than quality, and then you would say true, false. What % confidence are you sure of that? Oh, I'm not that sure, I'm going to say 50%. At least you're coming to terms with your own uncertainty. You're not saying, okay, this is correct because we talked about it and agreed on it. You're saying, actually, I don't know. And because I don't know, I'm going to be a lot more conservative about these estimates. And when you populate these into bigger models, you see it has dramatic effects. Even.
So the other thought I had about it was your initial example of guessing your age in a range from 0 to 100, right? Where effectively the range itself is unreasonable to begin with, right? I mean, because clearly you're older than 10 and younger than 80, right? So
sure.
I think that when the problem is framed that way, what you end up with is an iterative process of estimation, right? So if the range given when you get presented with an unknown problem, the next tendency is to ask another question.
Sure, that was something I should have brought up, but the estimation portal, so where they fill in their data, it's actually full of information. That's part of what ChatGPT does for us. We say generate possible factors that may influence this result. And then we have something called group insights, which is like a modified Delphi round, and it'll basically say, this is what John said, here's his rationale. So everybody includes their answer, but they include their reasoning. So we may have a low correlation. You may work in finance, I may work in programming, and we're in the same company, but we have different information available to us. So we have a lower correlation rate. That means if we agree, then the likelihood of it being true is higher. So there's a ton of math kind of baked in behind the scenes that I won't go into super great detail about, but that's the whole point of this, is to be able to abstract kind of that away from the estimator, give the estimator a portal where it produces, here's all of the relevant information that may affect this result, here's what your colleagues are saying without telling you here's who said it and here's exactly what they said, because people tend to avoid conflict. Some people go right into conflict, but most people are going to not want to disagree with their boss publicly,
So it's like a Dunning-Kruger score.
Exactly.
It's a bullshit meter.
It is. It kind of is.
Yeah.
Have you experimented with like relationship marketing, like for marriages?
That'd be interesting. No, but the reason I like this stuff is because it has a lot of, I'm not going to think of everything you're going to think of where it can be applied. Right now we use this for, kind of like high-end business cases, but you could use this stuff for everything. We use it internally for projecting things. You might want to have an argument with your wife about what your expenses are going to be next month. And what's interesting is how people respond when they see they're really bad at estimating. Because nobody wants to know that. Nobody wants to see, and especially it's not based on your hierarchical organization. It's not based on what your role is in the company. It's your past performance. So you may be on the lowest rung of the company. There may be an executive who's got all the clout in the company, but when you actually look at how you guys perform, you might see that, Barbara's got a problem. and we see this all the time. And being able to kind of train people is the art. We don't want just you to come in where you're at and stay where you're at. The whole idea is you come in as a 60% estimator, you leave at 90.
Does this play at all into the concept of under-promise and over-deliver?
Sure. I mean, that's a great, it's all about uncertainty. And that's a great example of uncertainty is when someone's over-promising something, they don't know. And we don't know a lot of things in the future. When we forecast, we're making it up. And so when you make it up, be aware that you're making it up, unless there's questions that you will know. And if you say 50% confident on every other question, but the one you're 100% confident about, that factors kind of into your individual metrics. And so when you answer certain questions with a high level of confidence, it's going to have a stronger weight in the system.
One more question.
Anything technology related? Anything about, how we built this?
This the most? This seems like nice for a lot of people, but who's sort of the group that'll beat you over the head if you're trying to take it away from you?
That's a great question. So one of the other courses we offer is a series called the Analyst Series. So if you're an analyst, if you're working in spreadsheets and PowerPoint all the time, and you're forecasting things over years and years, I mean, it could be gambling. You could be betting on a game that happens today. It doesn't have to be 10 years in the future. But if you're putting a significant amount of money, resources, time, on the line for an unknown, you want to be able to project as much certainty you can about what you don't know about this, and you want to bring in as many people as you can. So you want to get all of the people on your team that might have a piece of information, and you want to add that to the greater kind of puzzle. And hopefully in the aggregate, you get something that's better than just one person kind of saying, oh yeah, I think Lions are going to win the Super Bowl. From Detroit, I think the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl. But it really is, how can you find use for this? I think it's something that we all should be taught. We all should understand this concept of estimation at a deeper level, and it never happens. Maybe with Johnny's education system, it might be part of the curriculum of the future. Right now, you guys have never heard of this. I had never heard of this till I was, basically the primary software architect on the project. And it's really interesting stuff. If you're interested, it's hubbardresearch.com. It's actually my last week at this company. I'm starting a new job next Monday, but I'm still really close with the founders and everything. So if anybody's interested, sees value for this in their company, could definitely pass your information along.
About the actual project and then see what the team's estimates are? That way you can see who's not estimating correctly about the actual problem.
Sure, that's the most interesting thing. You can tell right away who just does not get the premise and who's just filling in answers versus who's done the research and educated themselves and is providing clear rationale. But thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Wow, a lot of educational ones, huh? That's awesome. I think I can answer your question about the marriage thing. The man is overconfident and the woman's always right. So, yeah. Yeah.
Miles, come on down.
All right. Next up, we have Official Whistle. That's in the sports betting arena. I've lost way too much money to probably invest in this. Baseball is kind of my soft spot, but anyway, we'll get him set up, and in the meantime, I just want to shout out to Ryan. He always comes here every month, records. Thank you very much, Ryan, for helping us record. He always gets it up on the YouTube and bugs me in the email. Sorry I didn't get back to your email last month, but yeah. Anyway, appreciate that. Thank you very much for volunteering to help get these up. So it's really important that these kind of live on. So without further ado, let's kick it off.
So I'm just going to introduce Miles a little bit here. Miles is a fantastic guy. Anybody here want to support Las Vegas startups? Start clapping. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I am here just to help him kick him off it a little bit. He's got a great idea. He's going to tell you about it. So we did do the tech on it. It's still an MVP in progress. He's going to explain the functionality. But Miles, how long have I been helping you with this?
About 2 months.
About 2 months?
Yeah,
All right.
about 2
And
months.
so part of what he's dealing with is getting feedback on sort of where to build from here. So as you're hearing what you're seeing and what he's talking about, feel free to share with that. And without any further ado, here's Miles.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. My name is Miles Lee. I'm the CEO and I'm the co-founder of Official Whistles. And what we do is we provide performance ratings on all the referees in professional and collegiate sports. And by doing this, we provide insight to sports bettors. So if you sports bet and you're out there and you want to know about the referees or anything like that, this is the app for you. Because before sports betting came along in 2018, everybody used to say bet responsibly. You probably heard that a million times, betting responsibly. Well, betting responsibly is not just betting all your money. Betting responsibly is knowing what you're betting on. So if you're a sports bettor, your number one object is to what? To win, right? Okay. I thought this was Vegas. If you're a sports bettor and you're betting, your number one objective is to do what? To win. Okay, and you can't win if you don't have all the information. You can, but the odds is very much against you. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take all that information on the officials, their names, how many years they've been in that profession, who they have a history of conflict with, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a coach, whether it's a fan base, like Kyrie Irving had with the Boston fan base. Either or, we're putting all that information at your fingertips and we're giving it to you for a subscription-based fee. That's what the whole vision is. Also, it's to bring transparency into officiating. When I was growing up, when an official made a call, that was it. You know, you hustled, you got your butt back on court and you played defense. I played basketball. That's what you did. Nowadays, officiating has become so much like polarizing that, you know, you hear this a lot, 1, 2, 3, kill the referee. Well, there's a lot of referees, y'all, that does outstanding jobs and they don't get no recognition. Like, if you will, Scott Foster. How many of you all know about Scott Foster? Raise your hand. He's an NBA ref. He has constant problems and conflict with Chris Paul. He's an athlete. That's what my app does. It brings awareness to officials. And that's what we're trying to do. And I hope that you guys will come on board and grow with us. We're new, you know, like Joshua said, he's been with me for 2 months and I've gotten already a whole lot of more traction, you know, being with Joshua and learning, you know, because I'm like, I want to go this way or go that way. Hey, slow down, Kimosop, you know, just hold your horses a little bit. We need to do this. We need to do this. I got some great mentors, James Richie, Andy Abramson, and myself included. And I believe we're making a run of it. So I welcome any feedback. I'm a first-time founder, and thank you for having me. Yes.
What sports do you all have currently? Like, are you in basketball? Are you in hockey? Do you have umpires for baseball? Like, which sports are you currently looking into referees for?
We're early. We're kind of like, you know, we're pre-revenue, we're early. The vision is to have the major four first. So you have baseball, you have basketball, you have football, and you have the WNBA and I'm getting brain like one more.
It's nice of you to put WNBA as top 4.
No, they're not in the top 4. Well, I mean, according, they're getting a lot of traction now. I mean,
we're talking about them now.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark, she's on fire. She's bringing things to the WNBA.
So I got a prompting question. Mm-hmm. So you talked about the subscription model. Do you have any other ways that you're trying to make money with this?
Yes, we have affiliate programs that we're doing right now to where we're navigating traffic from our website to sports books that we're affiliated with. Right now we have 2 that we're affiliated with. I don't think we're going any higher than 3.
All right.
Yeah.
Exactly what data do you publish? Is it
article, like blog posts, or is it numerical?
When you say data,
Well, what are you publishing? Just
okay. When I say
say I
data,
subscribe. What do I see?
when you
Or words?
okay, when you subscribe, you're going to see the first time ever who's officiating that particular event. Whatever sport it is, whatever
Why can't I get that data elsewhere?
you can. It's just out there though. Right now, nobody's taking
So
the.
you're aggregating officiating data.
When you say that again.
So you're aggregating this data into your
So-
website. That's
Correct.
Do you have,
Correct.
like,
Correct.
official
numbers?
profiles where you can
Excuse-
see like what their top line stats are, like how many average points are scored in a game when they're officiating? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
you could
You want me to help out a little
You
bit
can
on this
do
one?
some data analytics, right? So if Team A is playing Team B with Ref C versus Ref D, does one team do better? You know, with Ref C versus Ref D,
No.
and then
that-
you could run some numbers and make predictions saying because this referee is in place between Team A and B, then Team A is likely to get 3 more points or something.
Yeah, well, a big part of the challenge on this one here too is not just even necessarily the technical challenge of getting the data on the platform. It's where do you get the data feeds from? So, and doing it economically. So some of the vendors that Miles has found, you know, for $50,000, they'll give it to you in near real time, but you can also find it from other sources. So with it being a new venture, well,
without going off into our sauce.
so schedules, yes, like the bios on the officials and whatnot, all that, but yeah.
The bios is basically what they've been doing for years, even before sports betting evolved in 2018. And that's why I built the app, because I was tired of it. I'm a CEO that uses his or her own app. And what I mean by that is when you get bio, who wants, you know, it's okay to learn that, hey, Scott Foster, he's married, he's got 3 children, he lives in Arkansas. Okay, that's fine. But when you sport betting, that don't have nothing to do with nothing. You know, you're trying to win. And so that's what we're doing. We're helping you out by bringing in the name of the referee. We're bringing awareness to that referee. We're giving you a history of what they have as far as calling calls, like in the past. If they've been in the NBA for 5 years, they got a history of letting the players play. We're going to let you know that. If they got a history of calling the game tight, we're going to let you know that.
So where do you get that data?
We get that data from the public, well, without going off into our secret sauce or anything, but it's public information. To answer your question, if you wanted to right now, you could get that information. You would have to go through some due diligence and do your studying.
Just scores, or are you having people watch the game and then come up with some sort of, oh, I think that guy doesn't like that guy?
No, we're not doing scores. What we're doing is basically we're giving the sports bettor information that he or she needs. It's 3 ways to determine the outcome of a game. Whether it's with the players, which is why you hear a lot in the news about them being cracking down real hard on players gambling, coaches gambling. The players, the second option is weather. You see them building a lot of coliseums inside. A lot of games is being held inside, so weather can affect them. And the third is yours truly, the referees. Those are the only 3 ways you can determine the outcome of a game.
I guess what I think is if you have a ref, let's call him C, and Team A and B are playing, and you know that the ref C favors Team A for whatever reason, how do you report that? What exactly do you say about C's relationship to A and B?
That's a great question. We do that by if this particular referee's been in the league for 6 years reffing.
Say I want to bet on Team A or B. So I come to your site, I see that Ref C is officiating this team. What can I read about Ref C?
I think that's probably a little deep for this.
No, again, that's a great question because it goes back to the same thing. What we're doing is we're providing that info.
But like, what are they seeing is what his question is.
C is going to be the ref for this team, and then I can make my own decision based on that.
Well, it depends on what.
That data is hard to get, and you might have a business being just like a scraper who then resells to sports betting sites so they can publish that data. Because obviously they don't have that data because no one would use this. So you could sell that to them, and they might actually pay for it. It's going to be hard to get people to pay for it.
That's an option. That's something we could look at. Thank you. Go ahead.
Kind of like piggyback on what he's saying, I think there'd be a real edge to knowing who the ref is, if you can click on that ref's profile and say, okay, 60% of the time this ref is officiating, it goes into the over. Or, 50% of whatever it is, you can see some stats that actually may apply directly to bets.
That would be our rating. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's our rating. And I'm telling you what our ratings consist of, which is the names, how many years they've been reffing in that profession, if they have a history, And that cuts both ways. It's not always about bad referees. I don't want you to get that impression with me. It's about bringing awareness to officiating in sports, because over 95% of sports is connected to what? The officials. So when you look at it, that's why I brought the app up. And I'm hoping that, again, you guys can grow with me. Any more feedback, I welcome it. Yes, go ahead.
So as someone who's not into sports, I wouldn't say I'm not into sports, but my knowledge is definitely growing. For me to go on this side and I want to kind of delve into this space, and let's just say I see a profile. Here's similar to this question. And I'm looking at a 3 rating and I'm looking at a 4 rating. What underneath those ratings are the descriptors for me to read to determine, okay, you know what, I should go with 3 instead of 4 or 4 instead of 3. Like, what are the I guess the metric points that you were saying that this makes this ref use ratings? It's just understanding what are the criteria that you're using to define what a good ref or a non-good ref is for me to then decide, okay, I'm going to go with this person.
That's a great question. The way me and Joshua have it set up is basically when we provide these performance ratings to you, it's at your disposal to decide whether to bet with Team A or bet with Team B based on who's reffing tonight. Whether to take the game up, over, like he said, or whether to take it under based on who's reffing. And so he wanted to be real careful about that, about saying that, going out here and saying, hey, mess with official whistles. We can, we'll help you win way more and more. No, we're not. We're providing data at your, to your fingertips, and you make the decision on whether, who to bet with or who not to bet with. Does that answer your question?
If I'm not a sports person,
Mm-hmm.
my easy fix is I'll take this ref's info, I'll take that ref's info, put it in ChatGPT, have them synergize it, and say, hey, who should I pick? Who should I bet on? And he'll say, based on these such and such, you should do this. All right, Chat. What should I, like, if you're trying to say don't use Chat, use mine, what should you be telling me with regards to what you're providing that would be different from what Chat is synergizing?
I'm saying that if you're using AI chat, that we get our information, basically, we have a algorithm, a process of how we do things, basically, and I don't want to get off into that. I think it's going a little bit too deep.
Just candidly speaking, if you're using ChatGPT to get sports betting recommendations, you probably aren't a sports bettor.
Right.
But it's so novice when you're trying to track me, though. Like, if I'm saying I really want to learn this at some school, and I'm not a potential client, how do you draw me in?
Well, so I've done a lot of go-to-market, just candidly speaking. A product like this, there's some folks out there that just love sports betting. Mm-hmm. Everything about it. I want to know about this guy, I want to know this guy, I want to bitch about this other game. That person is the person that bets. Right. And so realistically, if you're not that person, what would turn you off is not as relevant because you're probably not going to be coming anyway. This is the part about picking and choosing the niches that you go after.
And to answer your question also is that by you not being a sports person, you would need more than the official whistles to make a informed bet, if you will. You would have to study who's hurt, who's not hurt.
It would also be an interesting new market. Maybe in a later version, we try to go after the new ones.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
So who's winning game 5?
Huh?
Who's winning game 5?
Oh, based on the officials? I don't know. We're going to see. Who would I bet on? In Boston, and the way things is going, I would say the Mavs with a handicap point 7 + 7 + 6. That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This kind of data has never been collected before, right?
Never, and that's one of the reasons
so
I feel.
Effectively, you're also creating a new market. I don't know if you can, kind of capitalize on it, but technically, you could create a betting market on referees themselves based on your score.
Oh, yeah. That's later down the line. But talking with real sports bettors, they said that doesn't move the needle. I know what you're saying. You're saying basically if Caesars has the game to Boston and the Mavs at -7, we're saying because of who's reffing, it should be -5. Is that where you're going?
No, what I'm talking about is you're assigning scores to refs, right?
Yeah.
So if I wanted to bet if this ref score is going to improve or not over time,
He's talking about side
it's
bets.
completely
That's like a prop, Brett.
Yeah,
I don't
bets
know.
on
That's
bets on
something to
bets.
think about. That's something for him to
real
think
deal.
about. Yeah.
That's right.
Anybody? Oh, go ahead.
So do you think, if I was a referee, years ago I was a FIFA referee for soccer, but in basketball, by the third quarter, the over-under, as everyone knows what that means, you take the total scores from both teams, and you can bet whether it goes over or under. If I was a referee in the NBA, I could probably 80% of the time make that go over or under based on the number of calls I make in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It'd be really easy to do. Over time, are you trying to basically say that, you're showing that the referees are doing this, or because they can control? That'd be the easiest part of sports to control.
There's something to
If I
look
call
into.
10, if you can see that I call 10 fouls in the fourth quarter, and it goes under, or if I want to go the opposite direction, on a general basis, I do one call in the fourth quarter. So
And also-
the referees have so much control, I guess, is the ultimate goal to help maybe level that playing field. So you know that if Josh is reffing against this team, it's going to go under.
Right.
Because he's going to make it.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Damn right.
And you are right, and it goes back.
James
to
is gonna make it go over.
and it goes back to what he was
Maybe
saying.
go the opposite way that the crowd's going, because that's a very valuable to Vegas. I
Right.
don't know that it's going in that direction, but
Well, and I think the interesting insight on that is,
to say that, are they doing that? And if I took a referee and looked at every game, the over and under, and how many calls they make in the fourth quarter, eventually you could come up with a probability of whether or not that ref is pushing that game.
well, and realistically, we could compare it across the different refs, what their fourth quarter scores are relative to the others. There's a lot of exciting stuff there. Yeah. All right.
Average total score metrics. Right. That's what I was thinking. Is like this might be a good tool for bookies, but I mean they know who the refs are and how
Yeah.
that's how.
Mob's got it figured out.
Right. See, a lot of you don't even know that in the NBA they got 4 styles of ref, and that they have to state which style they're using before the game even starts. They don't tell the public that.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know that. With the referees, it's a lot of things that people don't know. Like the NBA sells their information to the sports books.
Yeah.
The sports books could get it from a third party like Sports Radar or NFL Live or one of these other data providers. They could get it from them, but why not get it from the horse's mouth? You see what I'm saying? So it's not like, this is not going on. So what I'm doing basically is I'm bringing it to the consumer and saying, hey, hold up. If you want to know about the refs, I'm your guy. If you're sports betting and you're really serious about it and you're trying to win, I'm your guy. That's all I'm saying.
Sports books have this information.
Yes. Yeah,
they are.
They buy it. They buy it right now from them.
That's how they're placing their bets.
Did you know that?
against-
Yeah.
That's their insider trading.
That's how they win.
Yeah.
So this is insider trading that you're going against one of the biggest, this big sports betting.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well,
All right.
Right. Exactly, Mel. Yeah.
You don't have that yet.
Not yet. Hopefully it'll be of him. Any other questions? I just want to say thank you, Official Whistles. When me and Joshua, we thank y'all for the feedback.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right, thank you everyone for coming out. I appreciate everybody. Another round of applause for all of our demos. Holy cow, amazing demos. This was a great one. So again, if you're interested in giving a demo, I've got my card up here, or you can go to phpvegas.com. We've got about 15 minutes for you guys to hang out, chit chat, meet some of the founders here. So feel free, and then at 2:45 the next round of meetups. So we'll have our programmers monthly meetup following this one. But thanks again for coming out. Thanks again for everyone that supports the Tech Alley and the the Vegas programmers community. And I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you.